Hello and welcome to the Golden Wheel Tavern. It's so good to see you all again today. I know. It hasn't been a while, I think. I lose track of time sometimes. But we're here, and you're here, and that's what matters and what is important. And someone else is also here, the bartender.
I am?
I hope so.
I don't know. I feel really distant from you right now. Like, really far away.
Well, sometimes people drift apart. They have to go their separate ways for a little bit.
Uh-huh. That doesn't change the fact that I feel distant from you right now.
Well, yeah, you've gone your separate ways,
I've gone nowhere.
Then why aren't you here?
Because you left me. The
What do you
real
mean?
question is, why aren't you here?
No, because I'm where I've always been in regards to the Golden Wheel Tavern.
Wrong. You've recorded in other locations before. So, wrong.
Okay, sorry. I'm where I've almost always been in regards to the Golden Wheel Tavern. I'm not on site at Con of the North.
Or in my craft room.
On site in our hotel room at Con of the North. Or in the bartender's craft room. I am in the Tavern Keep's office, which is where we usually record.
And we're not doing a usual recording, so you shouldn't be in there. So you're not where you're supposed to be, actually.
Actually, we're supposed to be doing a usual recording, which means you should be in here.
No.
But unfortunately, a fire elemental has taken up residence in my office.
Which means I shouldn't be in there. And it also means you shouldn't be in there either.
I'm fine.
Anyways, I stand by the fact that I'm right, you're wrong, I'm where I'm supposed to be, you're not where you're supposed to be, and you should be down here, and I should be right here.
Probably more like a Remoraz, since those have the heated body thing.
For sure.
But aren't actively made of fire.
I'll be actively made of fire one day.
I hope not. I hope at best you're passively made of fire.
Yeah, well, that's not going to be the case, so...
Well, why are you going to be actively made of fire?
Why wouldn't I be? I'm hot.
Because, yeah, but there's a difference between being hot and being actively made of fire.
I'm actively hot, so...
I think you're passively hot.
No, I put in work to be hot.
You put in work to be more hot. I can tell you when you're not putting in work, you're still hot.
I'm always putting in work.
Oh, okay. Is that why you're tired all the time?
Yes.
Now that we're recording for like 30 minutes, or I've been recording for 27 minutes.
I've only been recording for 17.
That's still far too many for us to not yet have gone to the call to action.
And that's your fault.
So, anyways, if you want to support us, the best way to do so is by going and telling other people about the show. Really, it's the best way to support us. Spreading the word, getting more listeners. What we're looking for at this point is growth, right? So go tell other people about it. It's free, it's easy, and it's good for the podcast. It is not pouring river water in your socks.
I mean, you can do that too. That's also free and easy, and probably just as enjoyable as talking about your interests with other people.
I'm sorry you live such a sad and disconnected life without genuine connection to other people.
I'm sorry you live such a sad life where you don't get joy out of river water, okay?
Hey, I like river water as much as the next person. I just don't like it in my socks.
Fake river water fan.
Fake river water fan.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if you want to support us in another way, you can go to the social medias. Blue Sky, Mastodon, and Tumblr are going to be your options there. We are under either the Tavern Keep or the Tavern Keep's Guide. Find us there. Like, follow, reblog, because Tumblr's the reblogging site. Share, that kind of stuff. Boost those posts in some way, right? Because that helps get the word out there and it helps us grow. Once again, we are looking for growth. And then, last but not least, if you are really looking to show your support and you are like, these people, I need to show my support in the strongest way I can, and I've already told everybody I know about the show, I like and share and whatnot every single one of their social media posts, then you can go to patreon.com/the Tavern Keeps Guide. Now, I know saying this, there's at least like one person who listens to this that's gonna be like, well, I don't do that, so I guess we can't listen to the Patreon. I'm not saying you have to do that to go to the Patreon. I'm saying that if you're one of those types of people who have already told everybody about the show and already did all the social medias, then you can also cost to go to the Patreon. You can just go to the Patreon if you want rather than doing the other two things, but we really appreciate if you do the other two things.
Except I'm saying that.
If you go to the Patreon... So what you can get on the Patreon, if you go to patreon.com/thetavernkeepsguide, is the extended cut of these episodes, including a somewhat lengthy monologue the bartender just gave about how you shouldn't go to the Patreon. So, if you want to get that sort of stuff, including...
Fuck you!
Want to get that sort of stuff, including, extra talk and whatnot. Just for reference, the Tavern Keep, have been recording for 30 minutes at this point. The bartender's been recording for like 23.
I've been recording for 21 minutes.
21 minutes. If so, look at how long you've been listening. You get a rough idea of pre any sort of editing, how much has been cut. So, if you want to get all that sort of extra conversation, fun side talk, that kind of stuff, really get an idea of the chemistry between me and the bartender, you can go to patreon.com/thetavernkeepsguide and subscribe at $5 or more a month. That will get you all of the extra talk and whatnot. There are more perks at higher levels.
There are?
If you want to support there. Yes, including asking specific questions to be answered on the show. High enough tiers can work with me to suggest and create an episode topic. There are, I believe, one or two other perks as well, but mainly the main one is that $5 tier, which gets you all the extra side talk and whatnot. Now, support us, tell other people about the show, and go to patreon.com if you want to support us monetarily. We appreciate every one of you, no matter how you support us. Leaving us a review, or whatever on wherever you're listening, that's also extremely beneficial. So, thank you. Now, on to the Tavern's talking topic for today, which is about conflict resolution, or rather just resolution. What was your New Year's resolution for this year, bartender?
You think I had a New Year's resolution?
That is why I'm asking, yes.
Well, then you're dumb.
That is a terrible resolution.
End of episode.
It's gonna be such a pain leaving all that silence in.
Yeah, but you gotta.
Yeah, that's the hard part, is I can't just truncate silence the whole thing.
Yeah, because you'll be ruining the listening experience if you get rid of that.
Exactly. Ugh. Anyways, resolution systems is what we're discussing today. As in, how do you know if you've succeeded on something, or failed, or got a mixed success, or got a mixed failure, or critically succeeded, or critically failed. There are many options here, and we're going to discuss some of the ways you can discover how bad you were at a thing.
Okay, Mrs. Mavis teaches typing or whatever. Mavis Beacon teaches typing.
I was like, I was aware. I started noticing the stilted delivery and leaned into it. I would not have labeled it Mavis Beacon teaches typing, but okay. So, resolution systems. They are a critical part of TTRPGs. Any TTRPG is going to have some form of a resolution system, right? There has to be something there. Now, some TTRPGs, if you get really into the indie space, you have ones that are really pushing what you can call an RPG and fall closer into just an improv exercise. Those ones can maybe get away with that one, but even then there's usually still I need to take a token or something. But we're going to be talking about resolution systems you see in games that actually care about how things might resolve. So the first and most iconic tool used for resolution systems are dice.
Which is the best
How does
tool.
The bartender...
Dice are the best!
I was about to ask, how does the bartender feel about dice?
They're the
is
best!
What I was about to ask.
They're the best!
You're a big fan of dice?
Why don't you fucking come downstairs? You'll see that I'm a big fan of dice. I got a skull full of
That's a
them.
19.
And a cauldron that's getting full of them. And a suitcase just for my dice.
Dice. They are physical objects with numbers on them, usually certain geometric shapes. You know dice. If you're listening to a TTRPG podcast, you know dice.
And if you don't, I want to meet you.
I'd love to meet you, because that also means you've never played like 99% of board games.
If you don't know what dice are and you're listening to this, hit us up. Let's meet. We can go get like coffee or tea or something. I really need to know.
Are you like single or? Anyways, dice. So they are extremely useful for not conflict resolution, but as a resolution system tool in TTRPGs, because they are random and they are random each time you roll them. I'm gonna say something and some people are gonna be like, no, that can't be true. Each time you roll your dice, each number is equally likely. It doesn't matter what you rolled previously. If you've just rolled 5 6s in a row, the next time you roll the d6, there's a 1 in 6 chance it's a 6.
Wrong. I've weighted all my d6s.
Oh, okay.
That's why I always hit like 3.
It was never a 1 in 6 chance to begin with. Also, why did you weight your dice in the favor of 3?
Because if I weighted it in the favor of 6, that would be suspicious.
Yeah, but do you think you would at least weight it in like the favor of like 4 or 5?
That would also be pretty suspicious, don't you think?
First, we have to discuss the other pros of using dice, which is their fun clicky clacky rocks.
Yeah, and they look really cool when you put them in things. And when you put things in them.
That was a 7 on the D20 and a 12 on the D12. Yes, listeners, I have a set of dice at my desk. Who could have guessed?
Unfortunately, listeners, I do not have a set of dice at my bedside. That is because the cats.
They're fun, they're collectible. They're collectible in their own way because you have different, kinds, you have different materials, different inlays, different items inside. You can get some real artistry with dice. There's certain expression. There are people out there that get a unique dice set for each character. And then you have people like the bartender who set up a dice palette for each of their characters.
Yeah, because I have a lot of dice. Why wouldn't I? Also, one of the other people at our table does the same thing, just with less dice.
Yeah, so they're fun, they're collectible, and they can be used to express certain things about certain characters and whatnot. I have a set of dice that I am currently using as the DM, which is the only set of dice I'm going to use for the entire campaign because they are intrinsically linked to the character that they are tied to, and there's kind of a story about how I lost the D20 and then ended up getting it back. Dice sort of take on this emotional collectible aspect to them, which make them fun and interesting. But there are multiple ways to use dice for resolution system. The one most people are familiar with, or most people will be familiar with from Dungeons and Dragons, is the roll over DC style, or roll over target number, right? So this is going to be in classic Dungeons and Dragons style. You need to roll above a 15. You need to roll above a 20. You need to roll above a 25. You need to roll above a 5, but you have a plus 10 to your check. Why am I even having you roll for this? You succeed. It's a DC 5. You're good. So that is the classic type of roll that most people familiar with Dungeons & Dragons will be familiar with. The upsides, it's flexible difficulty. The DM can choose the DC and set it where they want to choose how difficult they want this thing to be. It allows for big numbers to be good. Both, your roll is big number, that's good. Your stats are big number, that's good. All big number go up, big number good. And there is no necessary upper bound. It's not like once you hit so much in a stat, you're just like, well, can't do anything more with that or else I'm guaranteed to always succeed. No, it can always go higher. Number always go bigger. Some of the cons is that it relies on someone to tell you what the number is, right? The number is hidden information. The DM can kind of just be like, well, I guess it's this number. Have fun. And it's really dependent on someone giving you those numbers rather than you knowing and being able to play around what the number is going to be. And I mean, that's the main downside of the rollover DC.
I like the rollover DC. It feels nice. Big number feel nice. Roll big number feel nice. Roll number, add big number to number feel nice. Not very vibes-wise downsides to the DC. Number DC thingy, because also it's very vibes based. If I am the DM and someone's like, can I do this thing? I was gonna come up with an example, but then I didn't. Can I come up with an example? And I say, okay, roll intelligence. Then I can sit there and go, the fuck? I guess it's like a DC 12. Sure. And then they
roll intelligence performance?
Yeah, roll intelligence performance to come up with an example that I suppose. And then I could just be like, vibes wise, we're going with a 12 here. That feels right in my soul. It's the same way I like to do seasoning with food. Just whatever feels right. And
that right there is exactly why some people would see it as a downside, is just the fact that it's vibe-based. But to each their own, preferred styles. This is not to say which ones are good and which ones are inherently bad. These are our opinions on these. Next common thing is rolling under your stat, right? So longtime listeners will have heard me play Castle of Memories on some of the mini-sodes. That is a roll under stat system. I'm trying to roll under my stat. GURPS, the general universal role-playing game, is also roll under stat. A lot of systems use roll under stat because it sets a known DC. The players know how difficult something is going to be, minus, occasionally there can be like modifiers. Like the DM can say, oh, this is because the situation you're in, you're going to lower your stat by 2 while doing this, or you're going to increase your stat by 1 when doing this. The DM can usually still adjust the difficulty slightly, but majority of the time the players know what they're going in with. It is a known difficulty. Big stat number is still good in this kind of system. You're still looking for a big stat number. The thing is, you're hoping to roll a low number on the die. Now, this typically means that your progression is bound by your upper stat limit, because let's say, I'm rolling a d20, the game's probably not going to let me have my stat go to 20, at best 19, because usually 20 is a critical failure anyways, and if it got to 20, that would mean I never fail. So usually there's an upper limit on the bounding there, and then if I want to try to do something with my strength, I know how likely it is to succeed. This also lends itself well to solo play, as seen with Castle of Memories and a lot of other solo systems, because you don't need a DM to figure out how difficult this is for you. You just need to know what stat you're rolling and if there are any static modifiers.
So what I think about roll under systems is they're bad and I hate them. Give me my big number. Give me my big number. Give me my big number. I understand their use. Okay. Especially in like solo TTRPGs and shit. But give me my big number. By God, it is my right to have big number.
Okay, then we will talk about the next one, which kind of does both, which is rolling for a set target number. Examples of this are like Monster of the Week, or damn it, I had the name of it in my head, but essentially it's like a 1d6 system. Like 3, 4, 5 is like a mixed success, 6 is your complete success, 1 and 2 are your failures. You are rolling the die and hoping for a success against a number that is set at the start of the game. Monster of the Week and Powered by the Apocalypse games, to move to the more umbrella term, PBTA, uses 7 usually as a mixed success, 10 is your full success. So you already know how difficult the check is going to be before you go in, but stat number high is good, and roll on dice high is good. So you have a known chance of success. You have this sliding scale of success, but it is still bound within a range. Because if I'm rolling 2d6 and I have a +5 to the roll, I literally cannot fail, which games like that want to avoid. Like in Monster of the Week, trust me, I've looked, it's real difficult to get +5 on a roll. You can get +3 with a little bit of work. You can get +4 on certain things if you're trying really hard. Getting +5 requires like teamwork and multiple things, or like specific like builds and skills. So rolling for target number has kind of a little bit of the best of both worlds, but also it suffers a little bit from that, you know, if you fail, you know you failed. There's not a lot of like changing you can do with the system. You can't really move things around a lot. It's kind of really static in a way, and it creates these bounding issues.
I am okay with the system that one of my favorite TTRPGs uses. Shocker. There. I know we were all expecting me to say that I hate it because one of my favorite TTRPGs uses it. Can't say Monster of the Week is my favorite TTRPG. It's not. It's one of my favorite TTRPGs. Like a mother with children, I can't pick a favorite, but I can tell you which one I hate.
Okay.
Anyways, that's not important. You can ask me about the children I hate later. No, I think it's fine because when I am running Monster of the Week, it takes a little bit of load off my shoulders because I don't gotta worry about the vibes. Do I like worrying about the vibes? Sometimes. Sometimes it's fun to go there and be like, yeah, sure, 17 sounds good to me, if it sounds good to you. And I'm not asking you, I'm asking me. And to me, it sounds good. But it's also nice when when your little player goes, hey, I want to do this thing, and you're like, okay, roll cool for that. And you don't have to think, would it 16 be fine? Is that me being fair? Because it's set in stone. Also a good one if you're like solo TTRPGing, because the less DCs you have to set as a solo TTRPGer, the better, as we all know.
Yeah. Both systems work well for solo TTRPGs. The main benefit of roll under stat over roll for target number is roll under stat can get a bit more granular with its percentages. Like, you don't want roll for target number and to be rolling like a d20 and having like a bunch of different ranges. A lot of roll for target number systems use like a d6 or 2d6. They want to keep it simple. Roll under stat can use that good old fashioned d20 and just be like, yeah, 14 is less than 15. You don't have to do like any math or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. But those are the main ways dice are used for resolution systems. But you can use more than just dice. In fact, a growing trend, although I'm not sure if we want to define it as growing, I mean, it's just a popular thing, is to use cards. A deck of good old cards, whether they're playing cards, some use tarot cards. I know there's one TTRPG that uses Zener cards for its psychic system. The cards are more controlled than dice. Dice, as I said previously, aren't affected by the previous roll. If you just rolled 3 nat 20s, you still have a 1 in 20 chance of rolling another nat 20. But if I have a deck of cards and I just pulled 3 aces out and we're not immediately shuffling cards back in, I do not have a 1 in 13 chance of pulling an ace. My chance of pulling an ace is now 1 in 49.
Unless you put the ace back in.
Yes, which, as I said at the start, we're not immediately shuffling the cards back in.
Okay, I get that you said that, but I'm still saying it.
Okay, I can't stop you.
You could try, but...
So they're a little more controlled and a little more like, you know, it'll work through all the values, versus a D20, you might spend an entire session, an entire weekend at a convention always rolling below 10. If you're pulling from a deck of cards, you will eventually, someone, you know, if you're pulling from a deck, will eventually pull a card that's not a 2, because there are only so many 2s in the deck. Another benefit of cards, they make fun riffling noises when you shuffle them. And then last benefit of using cards, they're thematic, right? If your TTRPG, if the TTRPG is based around the idea of gambling or cowboys or like, you know, mysticism, that kind of stuff, you can do a lot with cards for the theme. For example, one of the TTRPGs we just picked up uses cards for its resolution, and it's about elderly people in a nursing home. So it has a resolution system with cards very loosely based on the game Bridge, because old people love to play Bridge. So it's very thematic. But one of the ways you can do resolution with cards, like the one I just talked about, is a suit is set in some way as like the success suit. And then when somebody wants to do a check, they pull the top card or pull top however many cards and see if they get a card of the same suit. And that will usually say, whether or not they succeed. It seems random enough when you're pulling, but card counting can let you know how difficult it's going to be, know how much of an advantage you have, and that can let players kind of push their luck a little bit. And it's easy to tell if you fail because you just look at the card, see if it's the same suit. If it doesn't match, you're done. You failed. If it does match, you're good. And allows for quick and easy resolution in a way. But how does the bartender feel about pulling to match suit?
Listen, I haven't played any TTRPG that requires me to use cards. I've only played the dice ones. That being said, it's whatever. It's the same vibe to me as if someone was like, I'm rolling these dice, now you must roll your dice to see if your dice match my dice, except that has like a lower chance probably. Because it's like an equal amount of each suit, so that's like a 25% chance. It's
roughly a 1 in 4. The percent chances does change based on which cards have been pulled.
But it's about a 1 in 4.
Mm-hmm.
I really just have it's whatever feeling about it, If you put me in a game where that's the thing, I'm going to be like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to be like, let's go! Or I'm not going to be like, ugh, I have to touch cards, Like, it doesn't get me excited. It doesn't make me miserable. It just, for everyone, including the Tavern Keep, because the Tavern Keep cannot see me, I am just kind of gesturing my hands loosely into the air.
So the next resolution style that you commonly see with games that rely on cards is just pulling high cards. Usually this could be essentially setting a DC. It could be literally the last card pulled, you have to pull a higher card than it. It can be very tense, especially if the number is high, someone is kind of keeping track of the cards. Randomness can be high if it's that you have to pull higher than the last card type thing, because then it just builds higher and higher and it becomes more and more difficult over time type thing until someone fails and it moves back down. Trying to pull a higher card, you are looking for big numbers, but a lot of games that use that also have a way that pulling the big numbers repeatedly makes things worse for you. So it can lead to this interesting thing where you're looking for a high card, but all the high cards have been pulled, and then you're sweating hoping you pull the only 8 that's left in the deck, and it can be very tense. The cons is that it's a little bit less easy to read if you like pull a face card. You have to remember whether aces are high or not, that kind of stuff. It's a little bit less readable than just pulling the matching suit, but overall it lends itself to tense moments.
I like it. Bartender approved. Because one time I spent an entire weekend at Con of the North not rolling above a 10. And if I had known during that time that, I've rolled every number I can less than 10 as much as I possibly can, so I can only roll high from now on, that would have been great.
Got it. So you partly enjoy this one because it usually relies on that controlled thing of cards where the numbers are dependent on the previous numbers.
Yes. It's like how I've talked to you about how I kind of want like a TTRPG where you get a set of numbers at the beginning and you just pick which number for that roll.
Yeah. We've discussed like the divination dungeon or whatever, where like you're in the dungeon of like a divination mage and you're just given a checklist of 1 through 20.
Yeah.
And you have to check off every number until you have checked off every number, and then you just start over.
Yeah, like I like that.
We will actually kind of get to that. but not right now. Next is target number. Now, I've only seen like 1 or 2 TTRPGs use this, but I love the idea because it's essentially just blackjack rules, right? The dealer usually, because, you know, they love to be gambling themes with games that use cards, usually like either picks a number or a number is set, right, in some way. And then the player pulls cards, deciding when to stop and how far they are away from but below the target number puts them on some sort of sliding scale of success. I love blackjack rules. I just love that sort of thing of like pushing your luck. It kicks ass. It leans really much into a gambling theme, and I love good theming for games. And card counting is very helpful, and it's just like it can lead to these very hype moments where someone takes the risk and flips the card and sticks the landing and gets exactly the number and therefore a critical success. Or they take the risk and they lose it all because they flipped like a face card when that's the only thing that could have screwed them over. And it's really fun, and it can lead to really hype moments. It can also lend itself to, if there is just a set target number for the game, it can also lend itself really well to solo play, because then you just like basically are playing with like blackjack rules.
So I don't like it simply because I don't understand card counting. So everyone who understands card counting is at an advantage above me. And if I am the one GMing and my players know card counting, I don't know how to tell if they are counting cards or not.
Yeah, it does lend itself to keeping track of information, gives you an advantage. The easy way to negate that is just all cards are immediately like shuffled back in fully.
And see, I didn't even know that was an easy way to defeat that issue.
Yeah, if the cards are shuffled back in fully every time, you defeat that issue. The thing is, most games will have you just like put the cards on the bottom of the deck so that you don't have to constantly shuffle the deck anytime anyone wants to do anything.
Like, that's fair.
Or there will be a discard pile, and then once the deck is empty, you shuffle the discard pile, and that is the deck. And in those cases, card counting falls in favor of those who can actually count the cards. But yeah, I get that. That is a valid reason to not be the biggest fan of it, because it basically puts a knowledge check for you to have the advantage, and that could be frustrating. And then last but not least, for our types of resolution systems. This one is interesting. There are a couple systems that use it. Any system that claims to be diceless, that is actually like randomizerless, will typically use this sort of thing. And it is just resource spending. So that is going to be like, you have X amount of resource, and to complete Y thing, you have to spend X amount of resource, right? So then there is no randomness. It is all known information. When it comes to the risk and whatnot, it is, do I think I can get away with spending these resources now, or do I need to take a loss here and save them for later, right? So it's all risk. It's all thinking about the future, think about how many resources you're going to need later, right? You will know whether you will succeed or fail. The players are the one making that decision, right? It also lends really well for solo TTRPGs because it is the player making the decision whether they succeed or fail. It's just the system provides the random event they have to overcome. And it lends itself to putting the power in the hands of the players because they decide whether they succeed or fail. All the game master decides is what events come up and how many resources it takes. That, of course, also has the downside of, similar with the DC setting ones, the GM can just fuck over a player and be like, nope, this costs too many resources, you have to fail. Just as with the DC one, the DM can go, I don't want you doing this, it's DC 40 billion. But antagonistic DMs ruin any system. Antagonistic DMs just ruin things.
I have a nice little tip for antagonistic DMs. If you don't want someone to do something and they say, can I do this thing? You can just say no and move on.
No is a very useful tool in the DM's belt. But overall, resource spending games are about maintaining your resources and trying to prepare for the future. Now, how does the bartender feel about games where there isn't randomization?
I liked Cowboys with Big Hearts.
Cowboys with Big Hearts is one of them.
I thought that was fun. Makes you think a little bit.
Makes you think and decide what you want to use when.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can lead to interesting things where you're like, oh, do I really want to risk this? And it causes a player to more likely to be able to say, oh, I fail on this thing. And I'm okay failing on this thing because I don't lose my resource. It lends itself to type 2 fun, though, quite easily, because you're constantly losing things and most people are loss averse. So then you kind of feel bad. But, type 2 fun is still fun.
Not me, because I'm losing things all the time. I don't know where most of my stuff is.
And last but not least, mashing together systems. It allows for sliding scales of success and can kind of get you the best of both worlds, but it can get a little bit too complicated. Like there are games where you have dice and cards and resources, and it starts to get a little bit much if they're all like interplaying with each other. It starts to feel like a comedy sketch about overly complicated board games type thing. You want to avoid that. But like having a card mechanic in your TTRPG where you're typically rolling dice, a card mechanic where you pull a card and it can affect a scenario all of a sudden, can lead to some interesting stories. Having a roll under system where there is also sort of a aiming for a target number can be what defines a mixed success versus a total success. Like if you roll under your stat but you roll above a 10, you get your full success type thing. So you have these mixed systems that can really get the best of both worlds, and honestly most systems are going to use a little bit of different things because that is how you get variety. Any final opinions, bartender?
TTRPGs have systems in place to help you determine whether you succeed or fail. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad.
My final opinion, and this is a hot take, don't rely on them so much. Sometimes allow the story to unfold. You don't always need to roll a d20 to see if the rogue succeeds. Sometimes it's more interesting if they do. And on to everybody's favorite segment, the Quiz Bowl.
Yes.
Quiz bowl, quiz bowl, quiz bowl, quiz bowl, quiz bowl, quiz bowl, quiz.
Tell me, Tavern Keep, who edited the 1977 D&D basic set?
The 1977 basic set.
Yes, who edited it?
That's a tough one. Someone with the last name White.
No.
Damn. Who is it?
J. Eric Holmes, a California neurology professor.
Interesting.
To balance that out,
I think I may have heard that name before.
I shall give you a very, very easy baby question.
Hell yeah, watch me fail this easy baby first baby question.
The Forge domain, Grave domain, and Twilight domain are all subclass options for which character class?
Damn it, this is too easy of a question for me to even pretend failing, because this is cleric.
Yes. The DA series of modules consist of adventures created by which designer?
Dave Arneson?
Yes.
Nice!
A humanoid killed by the spell Finger of Death will rise as what kind of undead creature?
Oh no. Because there are two obvious answers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with a zombie.
Correct. And those are all the questions I can give you for free.
Wow, 3 out of 4.
To be fair, one of them was an easy baby first question, easy baby. Search engine optimization.
Breaking
baby
news.
Easy.
A child has stood up.
That's such a good video.
That's such a good video that none of our listeners will know about.
Maybe they will. Maybe our listeners are on TikTok and saw that video. Or maybe our listeners were watching that broadcast live.
Hey, listeners. We appreciate every one of you. We honestly do. If you want to show us support, as we said, the best way to do so is to tell someone else about the show. Otherwise, you can go to our social medias, like, share, reblog, whatever. Just move the stuff along, boost us in the algorithm a little bit. It really helps us because, once again, growth is what we are looking for. We really appreciate it. And if you want to support us monetarily, you can go to Patreon. patreon.com/the tavern keeps guide. $5 more a month gets you the rough cut or extended cut, the director's cut version of the show, which includes all sorts of side talks, diatribes, whatnot. I've been recording for almost an hour and a half now, so that'll give you an idea. We appreciate every one of you. We really do. Thank you so very much. And as always, make sure to tip the barmaids.